Israel's targeted airstrikes on Iran. What you need to know. Israel has just carried out what it's calling precise and targeted airstrikes on Iranian military sites. This action was taken in direct retaliation for a major missile assault launched by Iran on Israel earlier this month. The tension between these two countries has been building over recent months, with each exchange escalating fears of a potential all-out regional conflict. According to Iran, Saturday's strikes killed 4 soldiers, though early reports suggest these attacks may have been more limited than initially anticipated. Let's break down what happened, why it matters, and what it could mean for the future of the region. What happened and how it unfolded. At around 2:15 a.m. local time in Iran, 10:45 p.m. Greenwich Mean Time, explosions were reported in and around Tehran. Videos that surfaced on social media, later verified by the BBC, showed projectiles streaking across the night sky over the city, while residents reported hearing powerful booms throughout the capital. Soon after, the Israel Defense Forces (IDF) confirmed that it was executing precise strikes aimed at military targets in Iran. This massive operation involved waves of aircraft, including both fighter jets and drones, zeroing in on high-priority sites like Iran's air defenses, missile production facilities, and drone launch stations. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and Defense Minister Yoav Gallant monitored the operation closely from the IDF's command center in Tel Aviv as the strikes continued for around 3 hours, concluding just after 6 a.m. local time. In response, the White House referred to the strikes as an exercise of self-defense. A senior U.S. official confirmed that the U.S. had been involved in discussions with Israel, encouraging a response that would be both targeted and proportional to the ongoing security threats. Let's take a closer look at the implications and reactions to this latest escalation. What was the scale of the attacks? The scale and damage from Israel's recent airstrikes on Iran are still being assessed. According to the Israel Defense Forces (IDF), around 20 targets were hit, focusing on missile manufacturing facilities, surface-to-air missile sites, and other military locations. Iran's military reported that 2 soldiers lost their lives while battling projectiles during the attacks. Authorities indicated that strikes were carried out in Tehran as well as in Khuzestan and Ilam provinces. Iran's air defense claimed to have successfully intercepted many of the attacks, but acknowledged that some areas sustained limited damage. BBC Verify has identified damage at a defense ministry base located east of Tehran, and at an air defense base to the south. Importantly, a senior U.S. official stated that the strikes did not affect Iranian oil infrastructure or nuclear facilities, targets that President Biden specifically advised Israel to avoid. Additionally, Syrian state media reported attacks on military sites in central and southern Syria, although Israel has not confirmed these actions. Stay tuned as we continue to monitor the situation and its implications. Why did Israel attack Iran? Israel's recent attack on Iran stems from a complex history of hostilities and retaliations. Iran is a significant supporter of various proxy groups in the Middle East, notably Hamas and Hezbollah, both of which pose a direct threat to Israel. Direct attacks. In April, Iran launched its first direct assault on Israel, firing around 300 missiles and drones. This was a response to an Israeli airstrike on an Iranian embassy compound in Syria, which killed several senior commanders from Iran's Revolutionary Guard Corps (IRGC). Israel's response. Following this, Israel executed a limited strike targeting a missile defense system in Isfahan, which went unanswered by Iran. Escalating violence. In July, Israel assassinated a high-ranking Hezbollah commander in Beirut. The next day, Hamas leader Ismail Haniyeh was killed in Tehran in an explosion that Iran attributed to Israel, although Israel did not confirm involvement. Further assassinations. In late September, Israel killed Hezbollah leader Hassan Nasrallah and Brigadier Abbas Nilfershan in another airstrike in Beirut. Missile launches. Finally, on October 1st, Iran retaliated by launching 200 ballistic missiles at Israel, citing the killings of its leaders as justification. This chain of events highlights the intensifying conflict between Israel and Iran, with each side responding aggressively to perceived threats and provocations. What happens next? Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's office has refuted claims made by the U.S. outlet Axios that Israel warned Iran before its recent attacks, stating that no details were shared regarding the timing, targets, or intensity of the strikes. The Prime Minister's spokesperson emphasized that Israel acted without prior notice to Iran. Despite initial fears, early assessments suggest that the impact of the Israeli strikes was less severe than anticipated. The Israel Defense Forces (IDF) clarified their focus on achieving military objectives in Gaza and Lebanon, pointing out that Iran remains the party seeking to escalate regional tensions. A senior U.S. official has expressed hope that this recent exchange of fire will mark a cessation of direct hostilities between the two nations. Meanwhile, Iran's foreign ministry responded by asserting its right to self-defense, condemning the Israeli attack as a breach of international law. However, they also acknowledged their commitment to maintaining regional peace and security. As the situation evolves, the international community will be watching closely to see if these developments lead to further escalation or a potential pathway to de-escalation in the region. What is the situation in Iran? Recent images from Iranian state media depict life in Iran carrying on with a sense of normalcy. Streets are bustling, parks are filled with people exercising, and markets are operating as usual. Although Iran temporarily closed its airspace overnight, it has since reopened, allowing several commercial flights to resume. However, the Iranian government seems intent on downplaying the repercussions of the recent attacks. The Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps (IRGC) has announced that sharing any images or news related to the strikes with outlets deemed Israel-affiliated or hostile is now a criminal offense. Typically, Western media is classified as hostile by Iranian authorities. Additionally, reports indicate that Tehran's prosecutor office has filed charges against an unnamed website for covering topics that are considered a threat to national security. How has the world responded? The global response has varied. U.S. National Security Council spokesman Sean Savit remarked that Israel's response avoided populated areas and focused solely on military targets, contrasting it with Iran's earlier missile attacks on Israeli cities. He emphasized that Washington's goal is to foster diplomacy and de-escalate tensions in the Middle East. UK Prime Minister Sir Keir Starmer acknowledged Israel's right to self-defense while urging restraint from all sides and imploring Iran not to retaliate. Meanwhile, Saudi Arabia condemned the attack, cautioning against any actions that could destabilize the region. Egypt's foreign ministry echoed these sentiments, expressing grave concern over the situation. Hamas criticized the strikes, labeling them a flagrant violation of Iranian sovereignty and a dangerous escalation affecting regional security and safety.